Possibly. Yay. Welcome to night 2 of Thrive. And we are here
Why
for
doesn't the volume change?
Hope-Filled Mindset. And Jen, with the 2 ends, with the 1 end, is not muted. So we just got to hear her yell at her husband, who's an IT expert. She doesn't know. She's laughing. But here's the thing, you guys. Jen gets grace because she's the one that is making the gift I'm giving away. So let's be nice to Jen and her husband, who can fix all my computer issues. And okay, so back on track. First, I want to say that last night when I was failing at English and I said, help me what we call this Thrive method that we've broken down. You guys, it's an acronym, not an anagram. So the English major that told me it was an anagram, we're wrong. It's an acronym. So I needed to fix that. And the second thing is I told you guys about a book that I love by Jenny Allen. And I told you it was called Unstuck. That was in fact not true. It's called Get Out of Your Head. But since we're learning about imperfections and speaking kindly to ourselves this week, I just decided I would demonstrate imperfections for you, okay? And this is a fun little thing to think about. Let's say you had made a mistake like that in front of 100 people. Would you be beating yourself up right now? A little bit? Like, oh, how could I do that? So instead, I'm just going to say, I'm going to give myself grace. I forgive myself for being human. Because you do that for your best, right? Do you forgive your best friends for being human? How about yourself? Do you forgive yourself when you're human? Not as easily, right? So we're going to talk later this week a little bit more about self-compassion. So that's a self-compassion practice where I messed up. And instead of beating myself up, I'm going to say, whoops, my humanness showed up. Permission to be totally imperfect. And keep that permission idea in the back of your mind, because our Thrive Challenge is going to surround giving ourselves permission. So we'll come back to that. So welcome, logistical stuff done. Give has been mentioned. Can't wait to bless somebody with that. And then one last thing that I want to say about sort of before we dive into everything, and I promise that tonight we're going to be getting to the goods right away. You won't have to hear me babble forever about all that other stuff, is that many of the women who are my people, who are supportive of me, are here. And that is such a gift. There is one, there's actually 3 really special women of mine that are in heaven that are not here. My mom and 2 of my aunts. And I know that they are supportive of this. But there's one woman in particular who I don't think I would be thriving in the way that I am if she didn't exist in my life. And that's my Aunt Mary. Cue the tears, anybody that loved her, who is not here. And so this whole week, I've decided to dedicate to the memory of her, because her life was dedicated to what she believed in and helping people to thrive in a really intentional way. And so I just want to do a little shout out to her. And if you have anybody in your life who was instrumental in your journey who is not here, just take a minute to just feel that woman's energy and vibes, or maybe some sadness that comes with that. I think it's important that we remember the people that are part of our story, even if they're not here. So there we go. All right. So welcome. Recap yesterday, we talked about the brain. Anybody remember that? Remember that? Okay. And I haven't even gotten a chance to go through all of the homework, the Thrive challenges that you guys did, because you did, so many of you participated. That's awesome. When I don't even have a chance to get through everybody's, I'm going to do that. Can you put in the chat if for you that Thrive challenge was emotional? Either it was hard to think of your heart people, it was hard to narrow them down, or when you got answers, it was something that really moved your soul. I would love to see. And for some reason, the chat isn't showing up for me. I'm going to try to find that in a minute. Close that. Okay, there it is. Oh, awesome. There it is. You guys are doing this. Okay. Emotional. It was humbling. I don't do well with compliments. Oh, that's huge. Way to lean into that discomfort. That's fantastic. Tears. That is so awesome. So wouldn't it be cool if we do that more often in our lives, right? Permission to ask of that more often, to let people know. I think it's pretty neat. And maybe you could take it and think of who your heart people are that you want to love on, and maybe send them what you love about them. Maybe that happened organically. That's fantastic. So let's grab your Thrive guides and we'll move on to day 2, the Hope-Filled Mindset. How's everybody doing tonight? Pop in the chat. Was it kind of drama and crazy getting kids out of your way, or is everybody kind of feeling a little bit? Do we need to do any breathing or anything? Yes, maybe. Okay, I do. I got a little life try to derail me. So let's do some breaths a minute. I'm gonna actually, I'll teach you, I got 3 practices I love. I'll teach you one of my favorites. I give this one to kids a lot because it's kind of easy to do. They're sitting in class. You can share this with your littles or yourself, is to write on your leg with your finger, make a figure 8 or write in the air, but writing it somewhere where nobody can see it. I want you to breathe in as you make the top of the 8. And then I want you to hold your breath when you get to the middle of the 8, and then exhale as you make the bottom. So it's called figure 8 breathing. When we engage our frontal cortex in drawing that 8 and we engage in the breath movement, it allows us to really center on the breath and not let our mind go all over. Anybody feeling better? I need to do that one too. So there you go. There's figure 8 breathing. I might share some other techniques later, but hopefully that one's a good one to have in your back pocket. So we went over everything. Tomorrow night, if you're here, we're doing Inspired Abundance, the letter I. So hopefully you'll be back tomorrow. If you can't join, then the recording will be up. How many of you are here? Put in the chat if you're here for the first time. You couldn't make it last night. I would love to know. Welcome. We're really glad you're here. I also talked a little bit about intellectual property, and I don't want to steal people's. And I didn't mention somebody that I wanted to mention. She didn't necessarily inspire the idea of fearing fearless. You guys remember me talking about that last night, where instead of fearing, being fearless and not wanting to have anxiety, recognizing that we do and our amygdala works and it's keeping us safe. But she expanded on it, and she talked about fear experiments, and fear experiments is something we're going to dive into on Friday a little bit today, but it'll be our Thrive Challenge on Friday. And I didn't mention her, and so I want to do that. So I don't take credit for her work. Her name is Judy, Judi, Holler, Holler. Disclaimer that she has a colorful palette for language. So if that is something that is not your style, then avoid her book. If that's something that you're still able to get content out of, she has some really, she has some, oh, okay, sorry, I'm looking at the chat. She has some really good stuff on how to not be so scared of our fear. Okay, so I'm giving her some credit for that. So before I start, anybody have any big questions? Thanks for the breathing. Okay. Anybody have anything like really big and pressing from last night that they felt was kind of hanging? Will you put that in the chat? Because I want to cover it. We're going to do a little review and kind of dive a little bit deeper. So put that in there. Ask Jen to keep track of those and to circle back. So today is H of the Thrive method. We're going to talk about what it means to have a thriving mindset. We started last night talking about reframing and changing our thoughts, and you guys dove into that, and I hope that was meaningful for you. So tonight we're going to go a little bit deeper into that, and I want to ask you guys the question. Before last night, and I brought up the idea of fearing fearless, had you guys ever asked yourself the question, is fear to be feared? Probably not, because we just kind of assume that being anxious we're just anxious, and that's just how it is. But the brain is wired to answer questions we ask it. So if you go around all day questioning your abilities, your talents, your worth, who you are, who you're created to be, what kind of evidence do you think the file cabinet of your brain is searching through? Put it in the chat. So if you're saying, I don't think I can do this, this is really hard, it's too challenging, I'm going to fail at this, what kind of evidence is your brain doing? Negative, right? Thank you, Melissa. So what happens is if we're asking our brain to answer questions, it's going to do that. And remember, we talked about how our brain doesn't actually know the difference between imagined thoughts or real thoughts. Remember, it doesn't know the difference. And so if you're asking your brain to look for evidence that you can't do something, the evidence is only going to what? Confirm that you can't do those things. So really the key is to ask new questions. So we're going to talk about that tonight. How do we ask our brain different questions so that it's opening up the file cabinet? It's opening up a file cabinet. That's, that's kind of old school, but like opening up all the files in the computer of our brain and bringing that forward. So let's think a little bit about what we're asking our brain to look for, and maybe we want to change the search, right? What are we typing in there? What are we asking it to bring to us? Okay. So we talked about the amygdala a little bit last night, and One of the things that I really hope you get away from this week is that your amygdala is just loving on you. She wants to protect you and she wants to take care of you. She's just working really hard. Anxiety is just a sign that your brain is doing what strong, healthy brains do. It's just doing it a little bit too much. And when you look at your Thrive Guide, you guys, I think I'm going to ask you to lean into doing things you don't like. Is the tree on your first page of tonight? I think it probably is, right? Okay, so let's play a fun game called Counting Down, and let's go to 7 instead of 6. I want you guys to take out fear, is she to be feared? I want you to go back to, you can write in there what I just babbled if you would like about how really fearing the fear is part of the problem. Is we are wiring our brain to be afraid of those things. If instead we can say, oh, hey, amygdala, you're here. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for letting me know that something doesn't feel safe, but I'm actually okay. I can take some deep breaths. I can make some changes in my body. It's going to be okay. It really lessens the lack of control, because when we experience anxiety, we feel out of control, don't we? Anybody ever feel out of control? Feel like they're spiraling, feel like their body shaking and going into panic? It's why people who have panic attacks feel like they're having a heart attack, because their blood pressure changes, the respiration changes, their breathing changes. It feels like your body is being assaulted. And so if we can look at that part of our brain that is initiating that, it's going to be pretty powerful. So we'll get to that a little bit more. So talk new neural pathways. We began that discussion last night. How do we stop going into those negative ones, and how do we light up the new ones? And it's actually interesting. If you've read Jenny Ellen's book, she talks about this, that there's actually 3 core negative thoughts that when you take the billions of negative thoughts out there, they really come down to these 3. So you can put this in the fear to be feared section if you want, or if one of these resonates, you can put it in the current thoughts I'm believing. If these don't resonate, we'll get to one more specifically for you. But the 3 core negative beliefs: I am worthless, I am hopeless, and I'm unlovable. If any of those resonate for you as one of your core negative beliefs, you can put that one down. Maybe it's something else. So what I want you to think about is, what is either the most difficult, the hardest negative thought you have, the most raw, or the one that you have the most often? And I want you to write that one down. Okay. We did a list a little bit last night. We're just going to go a little deeper tonight. And we're going to flip it on its head again. All right. In just a minute. I'm not going to do the flip yet. We're going to do a little exercise. I did this with one of the girls I was on a chat with today, and it was pretty powerful. Hope you don't start crying like us, or maybe I do hope that you start crying. And I will put this in the chat for you all, or actually, no, I'm just going to ask my wonderful Jen to do it again. So what we are going to do is take that current thought. So whatever that one is, maybe you took one of those 3, that I am worthless, hopeless, or unlovable. Maybe it's different. I'm incapable. I'm not strong. I'm weak. I'm confused. Yeah, I can say those 3 again. Yep. I am worthless. I am hopeless. I'm unlovable. Thanks, Jen. So does everybody have a negative belief? Doesn't matter whether you believe it 10% or 100%. It's one that's still there. It's a neural pathway that is still lighting up too often. And you want to work on that fun word last night, atrophy. You want to work on that neural pathway dying off. Everybody got one? Are we good? Okay. Isn't it interesting how you can think of a negative thought really quick if I were to ask you to think of a positive one that might take you longer? So I'm going to ask you to listen to the words as I say them, and then we're going to say them together. You can say them silently if there's somebody around you and you don't want to, but there's something powerful about saying it out loud. So if you're able to, I really would like to encourage you to do this. And then I will, in a minute, while you guys are doing this, I will type this down so you can copy it if you would like. And I can even put it in the Facebook group, because this is a belief canceling activity. So it's an experience of canceling negative beliefs. I want to acknowledge that this exercise is not meant to clear out the entire channel of all the neural pathways of this thought. It might be one that you've been having again for decades. So this is a neat practice to maybe add to something that you're doing already in your self-care. Or if you're not doing a lot of self-care, here's a place to start, because it may be your beliefs need to be canceled often. And again, you're going to decide when we get to the end of this, the sentence you're going to speak, if you're surrendering it to God, if that's your holy supreme being, or if that's something else, to the universe, whatever. So you insert the word that works for you. Okay. That's going to be an individual experience. So these are the words that I'm going to invite you to speak, and I will actually say them slowly. So Jen, you can be prepared to type them right now. Okay. I currently have the belief that I am incapable. I know that this belief has an impact on my life. I cancel this belief in the here and now, forever and always, and I release it and surrender it to God. So Jen's working on it, and I'm going to say it again slowly. You can read it. I like doing this activity with my eyes closed once I kind of know the words, but obviously you guys are reading, so everybody see it in the chat there. So I want you to insert your words. So I am going to say the statement and then be silent while you enter in whatever those words are for you. And so I would invite you to say them with me or in your head. We're going to do this once where I read it aloud, and then I'm going to be quiet, and then we'll each do it on our own. Okay. I currently have the belief. I know that this belief has an impact on my life. I cancel this belief in the here and now, forever and always. I release and surrender it to God, to the universe. So I'm going to give you guys a minute. I'm actually going to mute myself, and I'm going to ask you guys to do that once more on your own. If you didn't say it out loud, I'm really going to encourage you to do that in a moment. Okay. Everybody good? Awesome. So again, I don't expect this belief is suddenly went from I believe it 100% down to a 0. It's going to take some work. But for those of you that didn't watch last night, or for just a review from last night, our brain doesn't know the difference. Doesn't know how much we believe it or not. Our brain just wants to look for evidence for what we're asking of it. So if we're asking to cancel that belief, that's powerful. So now let's think about turning that on its head. Maybe your thought is a really simple one, to just take the instead of the not out or the I am, just switch it, put it on its head. And I would love to hear, if you're feeling like you're comfortable leaning into vulnerability, to type in the chat what your what your new belief is. So what is the new pathway? What is the new thought that you want to have instead? Obviously, by sharing that, you're acknowledging what the opposite is that you, the negative thought you have. So I appreciate if that's not something you're comfortable doing, but I would love to inspire one another with that. So we're working on those new neural pathways. So the Fear Experiment and Thrive Challenge, we're going to get to in a minute. I can do hard things. I'm capable. I'm valuable. Awesome. Yeah. And interesting, the I am enough one, you guys, I'm going to get to, I believe, tomorrow or Thursday. I've been wrestling with the words I am enough as a person of faith, and what I believe our culture is telling us about those words that might be a little different, scripture says. So I guess I'm gonna ask your permission. Would you guys be okay if I lean into a difficult topic on the enoughness discussion? Would you guys be okay with that? You can just nod your heads. Okay. I don't think I'm gonna go there tonight, but I think it's worth talking about. And again, just because I share where I've come to land on that thought, I am, I'm okay if that's not where you are when I share it, but I feel like it's worthwhile, because I think it's doing some damage to women in their spiritual growth with that enoughness stuff. Okay. So the we're telling ourselves are getting in our way often, right? We're believing those things, and they affect our lives. And so what I want you guys to think about is your past day. Anybody here have a moment where their brain, their amygdala was dysregulated? Anybody have a moment where you were vibrating a little bit, where your heart rate was increasing? Anybody besides me? Anyone else that had that moment today? Yes, right? I don't know how many days we go through and our amygdala isn't activated in some way, right? And I am going to say to you that this journey is not about stopping the activation of the amygdala. Remember, she's our friend. We want her to be there to remind us that we are alive and that we are a being that can experience big emotions, but we want to let her know that we're okay. So when you think about, I use this in the beginning of my career, I did a lot of work with children that had a lot of trauma and attachment. I worked with foster and pre-adoptive and adoptive families. And one of the things I learned through that journey was about the idea that the calmest amygdala, the most zen amygdala in the room, will regulate the energy in the room. So it's a really helpful thing with parenting, right? It's why when we're vibrating and we're upregulated and we're angry and frustrated and feeling out of control, we have a really hard time effectively parenting, right? Because we're trying to parent one amygdala to another. And I wish I could share the emoji that one of my friends sent me this morning of two brains running into each other, right? Like two amygdalas coming together. It's not pretty. We've all experienced it, right? I experienced it this afternoon. My daughter didn't think she could add. Like it was amygdala, her amygdala wanted to crash into my amygdala, right? And I was thinking of all of you and wanted to be able to come on here tonight to say, it's not about amygdalas not going off. It's about saying, what do I have control over? Do we have control over anybody else's amygdala? If you're not sure, the answer is no. We only have control over ours. And it is really hard when our kids are having tantrums or our coworkers having a tantrum or our boss or significant other or friend or neighbor. It's really hard because it starts to vibrate us. So I like the analogy of the calmest amygdala regulates the room, because someone is really calm and really chill and you're freaking out. You notice the energy, right? And you probably want to smack them and say, like, you're just so calm, it's driving me crazy. So I want you to think of the visual that the person who you might be struggling with is like a thermometer. So they're going up and down. They're dysregulated. Their amygdala is all over the place. And to take a breath and say to yourself, I'm going to set myself at a comfortable 70 degrees. Like type that in to your thermostat and say, I'm going to stay at 70. Wherever this person goes, this is where I'm going to stay. Yeah, your husband does that. Yes, right. So it's really effective with parenting, but it's also really effective with any relationship. If your amygdala is vibrating, you're not going to be in your frontal cortex to be able to problem solve. So my challenge to you guys this week is to pay attention. And when there is someone's amygdala that is vibrating and going off, take a breath and check in. Where's your temperature? What have you set your thermostat to, right? Don't ride that roller coaster with them, because all you're going to do is become totally dysregulated. Okay. I'm trying to not get distracted. Everybody still with me? You okay? All right, awesome. So I'm going to ask that you take that sheet and set it aside. And we're going to jump into what I hope will be a really big game changer for you guys in your thought. So before we dive into that, I'm going to give a little teaser for Friday night. We're going to talk a lot about fear experiments. Fear experiments are fearing fear less on purpose and intentionally. I, on Friday night, am going to have one of my clients who I've done coaching work with, wellness work with, share a little bit of her story. And it's going to be her biggest fear experiment. Because imagine if your fear was talking in front of people and somebody asked you to talk in front of people, right? That's experiments. It is saying to your amygdala, I know you're going to go off, but I'm choosing to do this anyways, and an active attempt and growth experience. Because when you say to your fear, I'm going to do this anyways, the courage and bravery you will experience and the growth and the neural pathway activation you will have is amazing, right? Some of you experienced that last night by leaning into asking people what they thought of you. Like that was a big fear for you. So congratulations. We're going to be doing more of those on Friday. And this is my way of putting out into the universe of this person that's coming on. You guys be really nice to her, okay? Like she's amazing and she's coming on here to share a little bit of her story. And that is a huge fear experiment. And I know it's going to bless all of us to be more courageous. So let's keep that in the back pocket. So again, without that fear, it's really hard to do life because we actually need to protect ourselves, right? We don't want to be making poor choices all the time. By nature, we'll make some. We want to have that part of our brain taking good care of us. So let's acknowledge that fear is necessary, but we're working on letting that amygdala, that fear center, drive us a little bit less, okay? And most of you guys, not most, a lot of you guys watched the Thrive Live videos I did leading up to the retreat. Does anybody for superstar, like shout out sticker, teacher sticker points, whatever? Do you guys like getting stickers on your pages when you were in school? I loved that. That was so great. Anybody remember the 3 questions to ask ourselves when something happens and we're ready to freak out? Does anybody remember? Don't go look at the Facebook group, right? Like, don't go and cheat. But do you remember anyone? Can I speak at the next retreat? That's funny. Is this worth freaking out over? Yes. Okay, gold stars to Amanda and Chelsea and Katie and Chrissy and Jess. Yes. Is this worth freaking out over? What's the second one? Do I have enough information? I know that's not Ryan. That is, in fact, Audrey answering that. Yes. And then what is the third one? Anybody remember? Is this worth freaking out over? Do I have enough information? And yeah, will it make a difference? Yes. When is freaking out ever a good idea? If you can convince me that freaking out is ever really a good idea, and I will say that there are actually some events worth freaking out over. Like there are, I'm not gonna lie, but it's really not the most effective way because when we're freaking out, our amygdala is driving and our cortex isn't working. And in the end, it's not gonna go well. Okay, awesome. You guys get gold stars. You're amazing. Okay, so here we go. Anybody ever been, okay, you don't have to answer this because that would be you saying something you don't want to say. Some of you may have experienced therapy, talk therapy, that uses a type of therapy called CBT. That might sound familiar. It's cognitive behavioral therapy. And in CBT therapy, we talk about the ABC triangle. Okay. What that is affect for emotions, B is behaviors, and C is cognitions or thoughts. Okay. And that's how I typically have always taught, explaining the connection between thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. But as I was teaching this recently, the idea of a tree came to me, and it has really it's really resonated with me. So I wanted to share this with you guys. Okay. And we're going to kind of work, jump around on this page a little bit. So again, apologies. That's what we're doing. I want you to think about, what is the story that you're telling yourself right now? It might it's that negative thought. Often what happens is from our thoughts, the I am whatever statement that might be, we start developing a story. We create a narrative. Maybe it's back from trauma. Maybe we create the narrative that no matter what I do, if I let somebody in, they're going to hurt me. So you have those experiences, those chapters written, and you send them to the publisher, and they are set in stone. They're part of your story. You can't change them, right? You've convinced that that narrative and the story you're telling yourself is how it's always going to be, right? Like, I can't do this, it's too hard. This will never change. So your narrative is written. And what I want to challenge us with is that the narrative and the story that has gotten us here might not be the narrative and story that's going to be most helpful in getting us where we want to go. If you keep telling yourself the story that if I open myself up to a closeness or intimacy with somebody, and just ask someone, are you my heart person? Can I trust you? Can I share my stuff? And I will say I was surprised and so grateful because you guys taught me something, how many messages I got last night about how hard it was to come up with heart people, or how hard it was to trust people, or thinking that you didn't have heart people. And that was a really good learning for me, that, wow, you know what? Maybe some of us are more guarded and boundaried. Maybe some of us are more guarded and can lean into that. And you might be guarded for a good reason. You might have had trauma and hurt, and that's understandable. But is there a way in which you could work on your narrative and work on that story you're telling yourself to maybe lean something different? So I want you guys to think about that. We're all in different places, but I want to challenge you guys with that. So what's the story you're telling yourself? Is there a story, a belief, a narrative that you have established as though it is set in stone, and it's going to be the narrative that's going to carry through the topic sentence, that's going to carry through all the chapters yet to be written? And ask yourself, is that belief really going to get you where you feel called to go, where God's leading you, where you want to be in the future? And I often find that when I explore this with clients, is that the belief that they have is actually keeping them stuck, an old story that they're just recycling and repeating. I'm going to slow down for a minute. Everybody got that? Does that make sense? You with me? Do I need to repeat anything? Okay, because I get on a roll sometimes, and I know that's when I don't always enunciate and make sense. Okay. So what I want us to do now is skip over the, actually, no, we're going to do it this way. Okay. Let me ask you a question. When you look at your life, do you feel like the fruit you're bearing, so the results of decisions, the energy you're putting out there, is that fruit like fresh and yummy and crunchy apples? Or is it kind of rotting? Is it kind of hidden? Is it kind of feeling like it's being like attacked from the inside? Like, I want you to sort of think about that. Right now, are you in a thriving place? Are you in a surviving place? And I will say to you, if you're in a surviving place and you're getting through, that's okay. Life is often not about all surviving or all thriving. We're in different seasons. Ultimately, we would like to have more thriving, but sometimes we're just, I don't understand what you're asking. Thank you. What I'm asking you to think about is, in your life, are your decisions and actions bringing about fruit, blessings, gifts to others, gifts to the universe, gifts to whatever you're working on? Like, for example, for me in the fall, I wasn't giving fruitful gifts with my parenting. I was way more irritable. The fruit was a little bit rotten. Actually, sometimes it was just straight up rotten. And working on some of these thrive methods, I've been able to like improve the fruit. Does that make sense? Am I going too far with this analogy? Are you guys still with me? Okay. Awesome. Thank you for the thumbs up. It's very encouraging. Sometimes I feel like I'm juggling both surviving and thriving. Yep. Okay, cool. So I want you guys at the bottom of your tree to write for your roots, your thoughts. So your thoughts are the foundations of everything. We talked about thoughts last night because you'll see in a minute why the thoughts create the foundation of how we're living our life. So write thoughts down there. And then as the thoughts travel up from the roots into the trunk turns into the beliefs. That narrative piece I was telling you about, the beliefs that we hold about ourselves, others, the universe. My fruit is mushy. Thank you. That's a good one. Yep. Sometimes it's mushy. So our beliefs begin at the roots. Excuse me, our thoughts at the roots, our beliefs are the trunk that grow. And then the branches that go out are our emotions and feelings. And then that top line up there, the fruit, are our actions, our decisions. Okay, everybody got that? I'm trying really hard to be anti-Becky and go slow. All right. So I'm going to ask something really, really brave. And if nobody volunteers, that's okay. I did not ask anybody ahead of time because I kind of wanted this to be organic, that I can do an own example for my life. But would anybody be willing, and this is not practice, so if it blows up in my face, that will be interesting. Is anybody willing to unmute themselves and have us go through a thought that they're having, a negative thought? And we can help everybody understand how negative thoughts from the roots affect what's going into. Thanks, Jess. And I don't know which page you're on. So Jess Howard, if you can unmute yourself, or if Jen can do it, I don't know where you are. Which
Here
page?
I am.
Thank you. I'm going to try to find you because I want to be able to look at your face, and I don't know what screen you're on. So I'm going to just know that you're there. Okay. Can you talk to me? And there you are, Jess. Thank you. I can see you. Okay. So Jess, could you share with us what is,
Hi.
hey, thanks for jumping in here. Can you share with us what is a current negative thought, I am something thought that's causing you some trouble in life?
Well, right now I'm 31 years old and I don't have any kids, and I'm like in this thought that I'm too old to have kids and I'm never gonna have kids at this like point in my life. So I mean, I'm engaged, or yeah. So
yeah, sure, that's a great one. So the thought might be, I'm not going to be a mom. Is that kind of the thought that you have?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So then when you have that thought, what belief does that create within you? I'm not going to be a mom. So what does that cause you to believe about yourself? The roots go into the branches. And I haven't prepped you for this, so I will give you a little bit of where I'm going. So does that ever cause you to think like, I'm not going to fulfill my purpose, or I'm not going to be able to experience that? Does that ever go through your mind?
Yeah,
That would be a big
exactly.
loss.
Experience it.
Yeah. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
then the belief you have about yourself and who you
Yeah.
are as a woman or as, as a person. Sure. Okay. So then what feelings, what emotions, the branches, what feelings do you have when you have that thought? Jess, what do you feel?
It gets me pretty down.
Yeah. So down, sad. Do you ever feel anxious or fearful about it? Does ever happen anxiety
Yeah,
about
I'm
it?
more anxious.
Okay. So when
Mm-hmm.
you have the thought you're not going to be able to do something you want to do, and you believe that you might not be able to live that out in your life, and you have the feelings of being down or feeling anxious about it, well, how does that affect the decisions and choices that you make? Do you feel like you can make decisions and choices in abundance, or do you feel like sometimes that leads to some negativity in your decisions, or the way you might treat other people, or look at other moms, or at babies, or other people's lives that don't line up with where you want to be? That ever happen?
Well, there's positivity to it because my best friend, like, she has a 2-year-old daughter who's like adorable, and I'm like her Aunt Jess. So it's like it helps me to kind of be like almost like a mom to her.
Yeah.
But then it
Incredible
makes
gift.
me feel like, well, maybe I should just go adopt a kid and, be on my own with it. And yeah, it
Yeah, absolutely.
kind of
Right.
branches out from there.
Yeah. So you found a great way to have some positivity with it. Yeah, that's fantastic. So let me ask you a question. Does it ever happen though on some days where when you have the thoughts and those emotions that it to any less than ideal self-care, or you just feel kind of down, where that leads to lack of motivation, or maybe not doing some things that you might want to do? Does that ever happen for you?
Yeah, it happens sometimes.
Sometimes. Okay. I'm glad it's just sometimes. That's awesome. So Jess, thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. Give her a hand, you guys. That was huge fear experiment. That's so fantastic. Thank you. I really, really appreciate it, Jess. That was
Thank
awesome.
you.
So what I want to, isn't that great, you guys? So cool. So what I want to share is that what can happen, and I'm not going to take Jess's story because I don't want to dig into that for her. That's her own personal journey. But what can often happen, you guys, is at our roots, we can have the thought, like, for example, we might have the thought that I'm incapable, right? Like, I can't do this well. I keep trying to do this thing and it just keeps not working for me. And let's just say that I was trying this retreat. Let's say I did this retreat and invited people, no one came, right? I might have the thought I'm incapable, or I can't do this. Okay. The belief is that I'm just not meant to help people. I should just stop feeling down, anxious, unfulfilled. Does that make sense? You see how the roots of the thoughts, the belief I have about myself, grow into the emotional experience. And if I'm feeling sad, anxious, down, unfulfilled, do you think I'm going to show up in parenting in a way that is kind? No, I'm way more irritable. And then if I'm more irritable and I yell at my kids, that goes down to the thought of, I'm not a good enough mom. I'm a cranky mom. Why can't I be like so-and-so? Does this sound familiar? So it goes back into the roots. Like the fruit I'm dropping is the irritability back into the roots of, I am not a good mom. I can't do this well. That, oh, why did God give me these kids? I'm messing this up. Leads to the emotions of what? More negativity, shame, guilt. And then if I'm feeling the shame and guilt, what's happening to the fruit that I'm bearing, right? You see how that cycle goes? Like the fruit that we bear, the things that are coming out of our decisions impact what we're putting back into the soil. And as we get into rejuvenation and restoration tomorrow, we're going to talk about what are we putting into our soil that's fueling the beliefs, right? Like often we get selfish to do things for ourselves. So it's taking away from what we're supposed to be doing, right? And what ends up happening then is, I'm changing the view. What ends up happening is the negative thoughts just breed and they grow into more beliefs to confirm a narrative we've been telling ourselves for a while. And they lead to more negative feelings and the fruit. You see that? Okay. So what I want us to think about is that the beliefs, the root, thoughts, the roots lead to the beliefs, emotional experience, and then leads, yes, self-fulfilling prophecy, exactly. And then leads to the fruit we're bearing. So you don't have to be experts to get where I'm going with this. If the foundation are the thoughts, what do we need to work on changing? And the cool part is, what did we learn last night? That we have the ability to work on changing those. Because how many times have you heard someone, said it yourself, or witnessed it, stop feeling so worried. Why are you so worried? Why are you so anxious? Why are you so mad? Just stop being mad. Stop being sad, right? If someone could stop their negative emotions and not be sad, anxious, or upset, would they? Like, do we enjoy that feeling? Maybe for a minute, right? Just anger, right? So what's really beautiful about this process is that we might not be able to change the anger or the anxiety that we're experiencing. But if we can learn ways to work on changing our thoughts that are breeding the beliefs, then the emotional experience and the fruit we're bearing, do you see how if instead of me saying I'm capable because no one showed up at my retreat, I might say, I've just learned 100 ways not to host a retreat and invite people because they didn't show up. I learned a lot of ways that didn't go very well. Okay. So that might change into the belief of, well, I believe that I am someone who's trying to figure out how to do something well, and I found out ways not to do it. Okay. I might not feel super excited, but I might feel a little bit hopeful. Maybe I can learn some new things. I might feel like I can be on a quest to journey and try new stuff. And that might lead to me feeling like I can make resourceful decisions. I can seek help. I can seek guidance. And as I'm then learning new things, my actions, decisions, learning new things, the fruit that I'm bearing is probably going to lead to thoughts of, hey, I learned something new. Maybe I'm capable. Maybe I can do this. That might lead to what? A little more hope, that hope-filled mindset. Do you guys get where I'm going with this? That nothing changed. The event that led me to feel that way, no one showing up to my retreat, that's still the same. But it's the belief that is formed the thought that I have. I'm capable or I'm incapable. So the evidence stays the same. It's the same thing. I'm just changing the thought and the story I'm telling myself. I'm going to pause for a minute. Can I get some yeses that make sense? This is helpful. I get that. I've been trying to change my emotional life, and now I realize that trying to change my emotions isn't going to work because it's fueled by the thoughts and the beliefs that I'm having. And so I hope this is helpful for you guys, because if you have a kid or a husband or yourself who experiences anxiety, saying to them, just stop worrying. If they could stop worrying, they would stop worrying, right? Like if you could stop your anxiety, would you stop it? Of course, nobody enjoys it. Nobody enjoys it. But if you can say to yourself, what is the thought that is rooted? What is the thought that's giving water to the trunk, to the beliefs, to the emotional experience? Then I feel like you can have some sense of control, some sense of saying to your amygdala, okay, you're here. I'm embracing that you're here. I'm not going to fight you, but I am going to work on the neural pathways. That's the hardest part though, Becky. It is the hardest part, because how many years have we been telling ourselves those thoughts, listening to our brain, looking for evidence to support the thoughts and the questions that we're having? Yes, exactly. I might make Carrie get on here. Carrie actually does a really amazing work with businesses. So Carrie could probably, next retreat, Carrie, you're going to be my guest speaker. So what I want you guys to do for a minute, a little activity here. I want you to write down a positive thought, that positive thought on the page before that you flipped that negative on its head. I want you to write it down in your thoughts. And then I want you to write, what belief can you have about yourself? And how might you feel if you're thinking that thought and believing that belief and telling yourself that story? How are you going to feel? So while you're doing that, in case you can't see the chat, what Carrie was talking about is that through our disappointments and leaning into comfort and being uncomfortable, those are really the moments that turn into opportunities. It's so much work. Yes, it is so much work, but here's the decision we have. We can either stay where we are and stuck in those thoughts, or we can say, let's put our energy, instead of just staying stuck in them, into working on those new neural pathways. And one of my favorites, and this comes from something Brene Brown said, but then it's been used in a million different ways by lots of different people. So who knows where it really came from? But I want to invite you to take the thought. What are we supposed to write? I missed that part. Okay. Write the thought you're having, the positive thought you're having, the beliefs that creates for you, the trunk, the emotions you have from that, and then what fruit you might be able to bear. Jen, can you type that out in a second if that needs to happen? Okay, go back to what I was saying. So this part right here, I'm not going to take credit for it because I don't know where it organically started, but it can be a game changer for you. How many of you, put a Y in the chat, have had the thought, I'm failing, I can't do this, I'm a failure? So I'm a failure is a thought. I am failing is an action, right? Okay. Invitation to you. What if instead of saying, I'm a failure, I failed, I can't do this, what if instead we tell ourselves a different story and say the thought, I have just learned 10 million ways to not do that instead of I failed. Because really, you didn't fail. You just learned that's not the way to do it. So in life, I really think we're thriving and we're winning and we're killing it and we're doing amazing and like abundance is going, right? I hope we've all had those moments. I hope we've had a moment in your life where you felt like you were on it, right? Like things felt good. You were in the flow. Things felt okay. You had a moment of that. I hope you've had that. But you've probably then again, because you all said yes, you have had that I messed up. I did that wrong. I made a mistake. I failed. I failed at that. Guys, you didn't. You know what you did? You learned one more way to not do that. So wouldn't it be cool to say to ourselves, I either killed it, I slayed it, I did amazing, I'm thriving, I'm winning, or I'm learning. Because that's all this is. Disappointments are just opportunities. Obstacles are just opportunities to learn something new. And in the learning, guess what happens to our brain, you guys? Neural pathways are building and strengthening in what we're learning to keep us safe, to avoid those things in the past. Is this helpful? Would it be helpful to take I'm a failure or I failed out of a vocabulary, instead say, oh my goodness, I have just learned the obstacles away. Yes, right? Telling yourself a different story. Oh, love this. And here, you guys, I'm not necessarily saying something you haven't thought about or known. Like, I get that. This might not be totally new and fresh for you, but hopefully that this day, this Tuesday in January, where you are, you can apply it differently than when you heard it 2 months ago or 3 months ago. We can hear the same Bible verse. We can hear the same quote. We can hear the same psychoeducation that I'm giving you, but we apply it differently because we're in a different point right now than we were 10 minutes ago or than where we will be. So I hope that you are getting this. I love that you guys are encouraging each other in here. That's fantastic. Doing amazing. So is that cool? Can we just like not say the failing things to ourselves anymore? Can we just take that out and just say, oh, look, I am learning. I'm learning a new way to not parent my kid. I'm learning a new way to not do that strategy at work. What belief will that lead to? Well, the belief is that I can learn to do new things. I can do hard things and I can learn and grow. You might feel more inspired. You might feel more hopeful. You might actually then be able to work on whatever it was. You get the flow? How that happens? Okay. And your science teacher will be really proud of you that you figured out the life cycle of a tree and how it all works. So that's awesome. Okay. Was this helpful? Anybody get anything that was good out of this? You're going to come back again, hopefully. And I'm going to end on time tonight. So you should be super excited about that. Okay. So if you were not here last night or you were, that maybe that Marlene, you're uninvited. She's one of my heart people, so I can say that to her. So Brene, I mentioned her last night. And I want to say this carefully because my mom actually asked me this question. And I thought if my mom's asking this, there might be other people having it. TED Talks you can find on YouTube. Brene Brown did one in 2009 and 2010 on shame and vulnerability. They're super, super helpful. And I really encourage you to watch them because she is just so brave. And this research she does is amazing. I kind of want to like be a tiny little doll person and go in her pocket and like just experience the stories people tell her. It's amazing. She's incredible. And she also, for faith people, she also loves Jesus, which I think is pretty cool. That she is somebody who her faith walk is important to her, but yet she has blessed people in all different areas of the world. Okay. So one of my favorite books by her is called The Gifts of Imperfection. And it was one I gifted to a lot of people over the years. I think I've bought 10 copies for myself. As of this moment, I have this many copies in my house. Like I give it away, I lend it. I don't know what happened to them. It was, as of last checking, $10 on Amazon. And it is a beautiful book to increase what you're doing here in the retreat, because essentially what she does is she's a qualitative researcher. She hears people's stories and looks for themes. And the book is called The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. Jen will type that for us. Isn't Jen amazing? You wish you had a Jen in your pocket. Oh my goodness, she's amazing. So what she heard people's stories, like I think she cataloged like 5,000 stories with her researchers, and she found 10 themes, and she calls them guideposts. So 10 guideposts that were indicators of people that were living more wholeheartedly. So she wrote a book saying, hey, world, these 10 things are themes across every gender, ethnicity, lifestyle, everything, that if you work on engaging in these practices, in these mindset shifts, it's going to lead to more wholehearted living. You with me? So it's a really beautiful book to look at what those guideposts are. She digs into them. So that is a gift you can give yourself. And I wasn't planning on bringing this up. I'll bring it up more on Thursday, but some of you have already asked. Yes, I do work with people, and I'll be sharing how I am going to be doing that in 2021. And you may or may not, those of you that are interested in that, you may or may not be getting one of those books, because it is a game thing I recommend to everybody. So I'm getting off the Brene Brown train. She's fantastic, but enough about that. Okay, we made it to almost the end of night 2, but I promised a giveaway, so we're going to do that. Yay. Jen, have you successfully put all the names in the name picker? She's like, I forgot.
What?
No,
Yeah,
she didn't.
so I can't put all of you in a wheel because there's too many of you. So instead, I just put
good
you all on a
problem.
list, and you're all numbered. And I have a random name, a number picker on Google that I'm gonna share my screen. Hold on.
And while she's doing that, you guys, I'm going to tell you what you're going to be winning. I put mine on. Sorry, Jen's not going to share her screen yet. So remember that story? If you guys saw my emails early on, for those of you that registered early, you might have heard the story of me, or my post today said it too, like on my hands and knees praying. Oh, aside, if you are struggling, hands and knees, not hands and knees, just knees, kneeling, you guys, it makes such a difference. But I was doing that one day, and a friend of mine brought over my Christmas present early because I was still in that fear place. Like, is this Thrive thing going to work? And she brought me a bracelet with my word, and it says Thrive, and it's been such a gift. And so I decided, what if I could bless somebody? And then this girl said, let's bless 2 people. Let's make 2 bracelets. And I was going to have you guys do Thrive. And I thought, that's silly. That's my word. We're going to do your word. So we're going to pick 2 winners tonight. And Jen is going to make a bracelet for you with your word. And if you're one of those people who's anti-culture and says words are dumb, why are you girls doing this? Just give up. And why do you need a word? There's a really funny spoof video that Amanda Dahl, I'm going to ask her to post in our group. It's super funny about making fun of us and our words. But if you have a word, you're getting a bracelet. And if you don't have a word, you're getting a bracelet with something else on it. Does that sound good? Who's excited? I'm excited. Okay, I'll stop talking. Jen, would you?
Okay.
Our person.
I think I just pressed this generate button. It'll give us a number, and then I'll pop open the next page and you'll see who it is. Ready? I wish it made a sound. Generate. Ah, I didn't test. 35. Okay, who's 35? It is Heidi V.
Yay, Heidi Mendes. Yay. I just said your last name. I hope that's okay. Oh, yeah. I'm so excited. I hope you have a word. Oh, that makes my heart so happy. Yay. Okay. And
All right,
it makes
one more.
Jen's heart really happy too. I know, the Jen with 1 end. Okay, Jen with 2 ends. Go for it.
Okay, here we go. I'm making sounds because I feel like it should make sounds. 73. Who is, oh, I have to move you over. The suspense is killing you all. Melissa, who did not have a last name.
Last name. So the non-last name Melissa, who are you? We'll find out who you are. You can write your name in here. Your word is van. Oh, geez, Marlene. You guys are so, thank you guys. I mean, seriously, this is a retreat on Maine, and yeah, I'm having fun. Is anybody else having fun?
Melissa Brown? Oh no, there was a Melissa. There was a Melissa B. Hang on, I don't know. There was
Jen's
a Melissa.
Gonna figure that out. Jen's gonna figure it out.
I'm
She's
gonna
gonna
try
figure
right
out
now.
her. What?
I'm working on it.
Okay, she's gonna figure it out. She'll figure it out. She's a really good problem solver. So you guys, it is 3 minutes till 9. I'm really gonna hold us to ending on time. So remember how I mentioned that part that I'm going to be giving away some of my favorite wellness products on Friday, and Kristen and I are going to be giving away a bundle of other wellness products, and Jen's doing the bracelet. And then I had another friend who said, hey, I want to bless somebody with something. So tomorrow night, we're gonna have another drawing for some skincare makeup stuff, which I'm super excited about. And it's okay if you already have a line that you like or something, you can gift it to somebody else, but we're still going to do that because what does Becky like to do? give stuff away. So I'm super excited. And if you can't be on live, watch the recordings. I hope that they're helpful. We are going to dig into restoration and rejuvenation with thriving practices. We're going to talk about what do we need to do in our lives. We're going to dig, now that we know how the brain works and the thought stuff, we're going to dig into how do I do this? Like, how do I actually take care of myself in a meaningful way? Does it take away from everything else? Melissa C is the second winner. Awesome. Jen's going to write down both of those names so that I don't have to remember right now. Okay. Thanks guys for being here. I'm so blessed and honored that you're here. I had some amazing Thrive chats today. This is probably a really poor call to action to say, sign up for a Thrive chat, because most of the women on my Thrive chats today cried, and I cried. But if you can cry like happy growth tears in 10 to 15 minutes, like that's good stuff. So if you are like not sure what these are, I'm going to make it really simple. I'm just going to love on you. I'm going to ask you 3 questions about how this retreat can bless you. And I'm going to give you a little nugget of wisdom based on where you are that hopefully will bless you. And then if praying is your thing, I'm going to pray over you. So really, I think if you've done a Thrive chat, I haven't had somebody say, I wish I hadn't done this. So I still have times available for tomorrow and Thursday. I don't know, Jen has the Thrive link still, but she's going to go back in her messenger and she's going to find it for you. So you can sign up for those. If you cannot edit it on your phone, because sometimes the phones aren't nice, feel free to send me a message and say, hey, Becky, I'd like this time, or these times don't work for me. I will try to find a time that will work for you. I'm trying really hard to be able to fulfill God's calling number 2 of blessing a lot of women. So let me know. And again, if I'm not your thing and you're just here for the stuff on the retreat and you don't want to talk to me, that's fine. I don't take it personally. I'm not everybody's person. That is okay. I feel like there's something else like hanging over my head that I need to say, and I'm not sure what that. Oh, I remember what it is. Oh, good. Thank you. All right. So if you need to peace out, peace out. It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to end in some scripture and a meditation and a prayer. So if that's not your thing or your kids are screaming, go do that. Here are our words. Ask the Lord for freedom from fear. Pray that you will trade your troubles for his. And we just learned some ways to do that on working on our thoughts. So here's the verse, John 14:27. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Not as the world gives, do I give to you. Let not your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid. Cool stuff. If thousands of years ago, people were struggling with anxiety, fear, it's been here forever. It's not something new, but how cool would it be if we could be ambassadors of fearing fearless and saying thanks to our amygdala, but not giving her as much attention by working on thoughts that are breeding our beliefs, that are leading to the emotional experience that we're having and to the fruit that we're bearing. So let's go out tomorrow and let's pay attention to our amygdala. Let's try to bear the fruit that we're called to bear. Let's show up on the call if you can, or watch the recording or invite a friend. It was so cool to see all the new people that are joining. This is a chance for us to say, hey, despite what's going on in the world, despite all that stuff, I can still work on this. And I can still work on what God's calling me to. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have questions.
Hey, what's our challenge for tonight?
Thank you. See, 9:01. All right, I'm going to finish it really quick. Okay, Brene Brown, permission slips. Remember I said at the beginning of permission. Get a little sticky note, get a little piece of paper. You have some pages in your Thrive guide you can cut up. So see how I did actually think this through, even though it fell out of my head. I want you to write on this. I give myself permission to. Okay. You can do 100. You can put them in your wallet. You can put them in your pocket. You can put them in your mirror. You can put them on your steering wheel, on your computer, on your kids' foreheads, on your fridge, whatever it needs to be. I give myself permission. What do you need to give yourself permission to in order to live the life that you're called to live? Maybe permission to leave the house messy. I'm going to throw my sister and I out here. If you guys know my sisters, your life is better because they're amazing. And my younger sister and I were talking the other day, and if you want to hop off, because I lied about the time, hop off. And if you're doing homeschool with your kids or virtual school, you're amazing. Like that's so hard. I don't have to do that right now. And you guys right now, I don't even words. Amazing, right? My sister's doing that, plus attempting to work full time. And one of her humans at home is 4. and has a lot of energy. And her 8-year-old in 2 days just broke her leg last week. So she's trying to do all of those things at the same time. And so we're talking about how our Christmas decorations are still up. So we wrote permission slips to ourselves, permission to leave things undone because the things I need to do are right here in front of me. So our trees are going to be up until it works, right? Like that's our permission slip. Maybe a permission slip. I give myself permission take a walk during my lunch break. I give myself permission to say no to the extra thing that I was asked to do. I give myself permission to sleep in. I give myself permission to get up earlier. I give myself permission to go buy a new water bottle because I need to drink more water. I don't know what this is that you need, but give yourself permission for it. Go Thrive. I can't wait to hear about the permission slips in the Thrive Challenge. It'll be up in a minute. You're awesome. I'm going to stop talking or I'll never stop. Thank you for being here. I can't wait to see your beautiful faces on Thrive Chats or on the call. I'm honored to share this with you. Thank you guys. Have a great night. Sleep well.